creatives to the World Builders Tavern. Today we are talking about the movie Edge of Tomorrow, not the movie Day After Tomorrow, as we incorrectly referred to it multiple times in our group chat. It is Edge of Tomorrow. So consider yourself warned for Edge of Tomorrow. Also, do you know what? We may have spoilers for Day After Tomorrow. Who knows? But yeah, with that said, grab an ale, zero proof always available, and pull up a chair. I'm Emma, your friendly barkeep, along with Allison.
Hi.
And Christiana.
Hello.
And we are so happy to have you here. Cheers.
Cheers.
All right, so in an attempt at a succinct description of this film, aliens known as mimics are invading Earth, and humanity is waging a losing war against them. Major William Cage, played by Tom Cruise, is a military public affairs officer who is ordered to cover the front line, a dangerous job that he absolutely does not want to do and tries to get out of by blackmailing his commanding officer. This goes just as well as you would expect and results in him being arrested and sent to the front lines as infantry instead. The following day, the human forces land on a French beach but are ambushed and massacred by mimics. Cage manages to kill a larger alpha mimic and ends up being covered in its blood and mortally wounding himself in the explosion. After being killed, Cage suddenly wakes up, finding that he is reliving the previous morning. He makes failed attempts to warn against the invasion and experiences multiple loops in which he dies on the beach every day and wakens back at Heathrow. His battlefield knowledge and skills do increase with each loop. He makes contact with war hero Sergeant Rita Vrataski, who had the same thing happen to her in the past, but ended up losing the power to repeat the day after being given a blood infusion. The two of them work with the looping ability to figure out how to defeat the aliens. Time travel is hard to explain, even in summary.
I love time loops, though. I love
Yeah.
Groundhog Day.
Yeah, I thought this was a really good movie, which was fun. Most of the movies that we watch are good, so I don't know why I sound surprised.
Is this the first time that either of you have seen this, or have you seen it before?
No, I'd seen this
I've
one
seen
before.
It before.
Okay, me too.
Yeah. I think just because it's like a Tom Cruise action film, for some reason I'm like, oh, maybe it won't be that
I don't know,
good.
you kind of expected just to be meh, but it was really fun.
Yeah. I thought it was a good use of the time looping.
I will say the moment the time loop stopped, spoiler, at some point Tom Cruise loses the ability. Immediately I stopped caring. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I shouldn't say I stopped caring. It was still like it had an interesting and satisfying ending. But the moment like the loop stopped, I was like, okay, now it's just an action movie with Tom Cruise, which isn't a bad thing. But it was like, okay, Tom Cruise punches an alien. Tom Cruise holds his breath for a really long time. Tom Cruise saves the day.
Yeah.
There we go. So
my favorite thing about the movie is the humor. And I don't think I would describe this as a comedy to anybody if they were like asking what kind of movie is this? Particularly as the plot is serious, and a lot of the battle scenes are really terrifying, and Tom Cruise looks really terrified. But there are several parts that are very funny. And when I think about how to write humor, I often think of quippy dialogue, like Firefly, where they're just, it's the dialogue that's funny. Yeah, they're bantering. But this movie's humor is all situational. So the beginning is funny because the main character is a privileged ass, so it's amusing to watch him be demoted from major to private. It wouldn't have been funny if he began as like a regular soldier in the army and this was just his situation. So I really liked that they made him this major who's never actually seen any fighting before.
Yeah. I will say too, okay, so I have a personal connection to this. I used to be a public affairs officer in the military, and I just want to say we're not all little weenies. That was like the thing that like in the military, everyone was always very like, oh, so you don't really do anything. And it's like, true, I do sit in an office and write news releases a lot. But also, I went to the same basic training you guys did.
Yeah.
I go out on exercises. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just sitting in an office and pitching to journalists kind of thing. So at the very first, I was a little defensive. I was like, come on. I did more than that. But then immediately he just shows his ass and is generally a jerk. So I'm like,
I didn't think it was I didn't think Cage's job there was anything wrong with his job. It was just him himself.
Person. Yeah. Yeah, it's not that all, military PR people are like this. Just he is like this. And
it's just he,
yeah.
With the humor aspect, like, so the thing that genuinely got a chuckle out of me is when so anytime he dies, the day resets, and
Yeah.
he's training with Rita, and every time he messes up, she just, like, shoots him point blank in the head.
Yeah.
And, like, that kinda cracked me up. It was really fun seeing a montage of
Just him
Tom Cruise
dying
just,
over and
like,
over again.
getting, like,
Yeah.
mangled by a machine or shot in the head, like, over and
Yeah.
over and over again. It was pretty
I
funny.
liked
Yeah.
the part where he's doing push-ups and then he tries to roll under a
Yeah, the
moving
truck.
truck to get away and immediately just dies the first time he tries
That's
it.
what I was thinking too. And
Yeah.
and that was funny because they didn't show it. Like it would be horrifying to like graphically see somebody get run over by a truck, but it
Yeah.
like shows him rolling and then it cuts away and there's the like squelching noise and the
Yeah.
officer like makes this horrified face and it's like that makes it funny.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I think we've talked about it before, but like the line between horror and comedy is so thin and like
Yeah.
Mhm.
this could easily be like a gritty horror film if they had just like tweaked the tone a little bit, but it ends
Yeah.
up being like a comedy action instead of like a horror action.
Well, and they managed to get both serious and funny because when
Yeah.
he's tossed into the battle the very first time, it is really horrifying. Like you can
Hmm.
see him being overwhelmed by what's happening. His comrades are dying around him. There's these aliens coming at him, and it's like this is terrifying.
Yeah. And he
And
doesn't
yet,
even know how to use his mech suit. Like,
yeah,
that's
he doesn't even know how to fire his
They
weapon.
didn't tell him how to turn the safety off.
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah.
So really neat juxtaposition of humor and serious.
Hmm. We talked a little bit about the montaging, which I thought was really used effectively in this film. They open with a montage, which I think that it's kind of a classic, I think, alien
Mhm.
invasion
Yeah.
trope is to do the montage of like the news reports kind of showing over time what's happening. And then, of course, they have the montages of him dying over and over again and him
Yeah.
trying to like repeat the day. And I was thinking that this works great in visual formats, and I wanted to ask you both if you think it could work in a novel as effectively, or is this a tool that's better for visual formats? Like I don't know that it would be easy to pull off in
I think you
just written.
see it in novels, but it's also a form of like snippets of media. You get letters, right? Someone
Hmm.
walks. I'm thinking of Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer when she gets to the lighthouse and she reads all the letters that were
Mm.
happening in there. Even though that's like towards the end of the story, it still is like context, 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 like quickly providing those snippets and updates. I
Hmm.
feel like in novels you tend to see it. It still exists. It's just
Mm.
in movies, since movies is a visual medium, you see it through visual media such as news reports, like on screen, like we're live watching this happen. Whereas in novels, you tend to see it also in written form in things like letters or
Yeah, or
posters
journal
and
entries or something
yeah,
like that. Yeah, but it would be hard to like actually flip descriptively of like a paragraph of something happening to a character and
yeah,
then
Yeah,
another
I'm trying to
paragraph.
think of
Like,
how I would do him dying over and over again in a book. Um, because you could do paragraph, 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 and I guess you would try and make them really short paragraphs to sort
yeah.
of replicate,
Or
but it's
like
still
just a
not
sentence. Like you could have like a
Yeah.
series of sentences of like he continued to die, head cut off, blown up in an explosion. Like you probably maybe just have to
Yeah.
like fire them off. But it's not I don't know if it's as
It
like
wouldn't be the same. You wouldn't get
yeah.
yeah,
that beat, 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 beat.
Yeah. So if you're world building in a visual format, consider that you can montage like the
yeah,
montage is a tool that's there for you. That's perfect. Or like comic books, I think would also be like a
yeah,
perfect format for that. Like
Yeah.
anything where you've got that visual aspect. A montage is just so good. I
Yes, you
love
could
a
just have
montage.
panel, panel, panel of him die
Yeah.
scenes of him
yeah,
dying, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I also thought that they did a very good job of not repeating to the point where it got boring for
yes,
viewers. Like they
Yes.
always like made it different enough soon enough or ended the day soon enough that you weren't like, "Oh, we've seen him have this conversation 8 times exactly the
Yep.
same way. This is super boring."
yeah. And I liked how realistic he was in if I were stuck in a time loop, I would also start trying to convince people by telling them, "And you're about to make them eat there's a card game under the bed, and you're gonna discover it. And you have what? A flush of spades, and then you're gonna make them eat the cards." Right? Like, going through that, I would also totally do that. But if someone came up to me in real life right now and was like, "These are all the things you're about to do," I'd be like, "Okay, weirdo," and like
Yeah.
Yeah.
not
Or you're
believe
like,
that
this
it's a
is some
time
sort of
loop.
like
Yeah,
street magic trick. Like, your
yeah,
brain
Yeah.
rationalizes. There's no way you're going to be like, this impossible thing
yeah.
is true. Like, that's just, yeah. And yeah, the only reason he's able to convince anybody of it is the
Rita,
Rita. I only have she's given the nickname of what, like, the Iron
Angel of
Bitch or something like
Verdun.
that. Angel of
Yeah,
Verdun is the nicer one.
yeah,
The nicer one. Yeah, she has a couple nicknames.
Yeah,
yeah,
and those were always ones that get stuck in my head. But yeah, he's only able to convince her because she had the same thing happen to her. So she's like,
Yeah.
I know what's happening to you, which
yeah,
is an effective way of being able for your character to communicate that, because it would be almost impossible to convince anybody of it outside of
yeah.
that loop.
Yeah.
And I feel like you don't see that as often in time loops. I'm thinking of another example, but it's like a rom-com. It's called Palm Springs.
Oh yes.
Um, it's really, really good
Mm-hmm.
movie. Also fantastic at the time loop trope. Um, but that's the only other one that I can think of off the top of my head that is like two people, but even that's different because they're experiencing it at the same time,
Mm.
kind of thing. So you don't often see in time loop kind of things like, oh, this has happened before, and that person knows what to do or has an idea at the very least of what
Mm-hmm.
to do.
Hmm. My
Yeah.
favorite time loop is from an episode of Stargate. And at some point, Jack, the character who's stuck in the time loop, just gets exhausted of trying to explain to everybody and like trying to work on the science with people. And so he just takes like a bunch of days off and just like plays golf into the Stargate. It just does like random stuff because he's like, I just can't handle it. And yeah, another really fun use of humor.
Yeah.
Time loops are
Well,
just ripe for humor.
they
Oh
are.
yeah.
We
Yeah.
saw that too in Edge of Tomorrow where he just gives up and goes to a bar
Yeah.
like for the one day, which I'm like, that's so honestly realistic. Because if I
Yeah.
was like stuck for a year trying to convince people, I would eventually just be like, I'm
I
just
just
gonna
need a
sleep
break.
in. Like,
Yeah,
I'm
just
just
need
gonna
a
do my
holiday.
own thing. I know I'm gonna die at the end of the day some way or another. Like,
Yeah.
reset it, whatever.
It's unfortunate for him that the day that he's thrown into is when he's like arrested and put through like training, because it's not even like he can just relax. It's like, well, you're
No,
getting yelled
no,
at
it's like
every day.
you're
Yeah.
literally having to do PT and you're in the barracks and everything.
Yeah.
That's my personal worst nightmare. If I was stuck in a time loop and they picked any of the months I was in basic training, I would be like, there is no God. That's so unfair. Like, of all the days you could have picked for me, it's like I'm up at like 4 a.m. to try and make my bed nice enough for 4:30 a.m. PT. Like, come on.
I did also like the fact that they used the time loop to explain how he got really like
Yes.
superhuman good at fighting.
Yeah.
Instead of it just being your often it's just like in the background of like, oh yeah, they've been training as a super spy for years, but you don't get to see any of this. Whereas here, once he convinces Rita what's happening, she starts actively training him, and they train together every day so that he gets better and better. And then by the end, he's like, the kick-ass soldier that's decapitating
Yeah.
aliens left and right. But it's fun to see the difference.
Yes, I
Yeah.
love how much he sucks at the beginning. It's so
Yeah.
cute.
Yeah. I want to talk about one specific scene because I think one of those rare scenes where I was like, I remember the first time I saw it. I first watched this movie with my dad because I'm not an action movie person or a Tom Cruise person, so he made me watch it. But I was sold on it when they finally make it to the house, and he says, "Why don't you just stay behind? Like, I'll make you some coffee. Oh, here's some sugar.
Mm.
Oh no, you like 3 sugars." And the audience realizes at the same moment as Rita that they've lived this day
Yeah.
however many times before. And like in her mind, this is like a big thing. Like they finally made it past the battlefield and all these things just to realize like, no, we failed at this exact moment
Yeah.
however many times. Like
And also
that's
because she straight up
oof,
asked him, she was like, have we ever gotten this far before? And he was like, no. Because that's the point
yeah,
where she
yeah,
keeps dying and he's trying to keep that from happening because, of course, he's fallen in
yeah,
love with her. Which is also kind of a fun thing to like have one person have spent 100 days with somebody, but the other person's only known them for 24 hours.
Yeah.
And like, what a
it's like
weird
50 First Dates.
It
50
is,
First
but like
Dates
Yeah.
isn't a
less
time loop
creepy.
movie, but yeah,
51st. Oh
yeah,
yeah, there. What a moral problem that movie
it
is.
is.
But
It really is. Great
this
movie,
Yeah.
movie
but
is better.
really problematic.
Yes. Yeah. Um, There was one kind of world building or plot hand waving where I was kind of like, oh yeah, that was a story thing for convenience, which is that you just know when you've lost the ability to reset the day.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
like, I can feel it.
Yeah, which
I'm like,
which
okay.
I mean, I'm glad that he said that at least, because I remember like 5 minutes before that I'd been thinking, wait, if you reset the day by dying, how did she know that she lost the power? Because wouldn't she have had to die to realize that she lost it?
Yeah.
And then he was like, you
Yeah.
can just feel that the power is gone. I'm like, okay, convenient that you can just feel it.
What I wanna see I wanna see a movie where he doesn't realize that he still has the power, and they defeat the aliens, and they lead a totally normal life, and then when he's, like, 95, dying of natural causes, it resets to that day. Could
Oh
you
my
imagine?
goodness.
That's my pitch for anyone listening. If you wanna write a time loop thing,
Ooh.
make it a time loop that you have to remember everything you did 60 years ago to get
Oh my
things
goodness.
perfectly
Would
right.
you? What would? Oh, maybe. No, I just had a good question for after hours, so I'll
Okay.
leave that. But for anybody listening, to tempt you to subscribing to our Patreon, here's a sneak peek of what we'll be talking about, which is if you did live your whole life and then got reset, what would you do? Would you
Oh my
like try and do the
goodness.
same thing? Don't answer yet. We'll talk about it on after hours. But listeners,
Yeah.
if you want to hear it, plug for our
Yeah.
Patreon.
Okay, one thing this movie does really good is something we talk about in almost every single world building episode. In how much world building do you put into your
Yeah.
story? And we constantly talk about this because it's just a really big deal in sci-fi and fantasy, figuring out how to not info dump and how to not overwhelm readers with all this information. And I really liked that they never explain why the aliens are there or what they
Yeah.
want or where they came from. It's
I
just
think there's, like,
that's
an
not the point.
offline where it's, like, a meteorite hit Earth and brought the aliens, but it's when they're in the bar.
Yeah, there's a
One of them
scene in the
mentions that,
bar
like
where a couple people are arguing about what the aliens want
yeah,
and why they're invading, and Cage just says, "Why does it
why does
matter?"
it
And
See,
matter?
then that
Yeah.
scene is gone.
I like that they didn't explain it. I did not like that they inserted that scene where they hung a hat on it, because that I thought
Yeah.
was dumb.
Yeah.
Because he's like, "Why does it matter?" And it's like, well, it would matter, because if they're
It
like
would,
trying to
kind
get
of,
a
yeah.
resource or something, then like knowing your enemy's motivations is actually important. So it kind of felt like the movie
Yeah.
wasn't confident enough that people wouldn't care, and like you could have just left that out, and we never would have
Yeah.
asked why are the aliens
Yeah.
there. I
You're
feel
like,
like that's
actually,
why we're
now
like,
that I
why
think
are
about
the
it
aliens there? Like
I mean,
that was
I think
unnecessary.
I was still asking that, but I agree that
Yeah.
I don't think that scene was necessary because it's just not the point of the movie. You don't need to know what they're doing there. That
Yeah.
Yeah, and I get what they were trying to do with it. It was trying to be like because that was the day where he didn't even try to convince anyone, he didn't try to do anything. That was him
yeah,
asking, "Why does it matter?" Not, like,
just
strategically, but
feeling
from, like, a
hopeless.
character
Yeah.
standpoint, like, "Why does it even
Mhm.
matter?" I get it, but I agree with you, Emma, where I'm like, "Well, actually, now that you mention it, why?" Now that you bring it up. Yeah, so
but
but you're right, Allie, like, the level of like, we don't even really know how the aliens work in this movie. Like, we have some
No.
idea,
no.
like, the idea with, like, the Omega or whatever and the Alpha and, like, all these things. Is it the Omega? What's it called?
The Omega. Yes, the Omega is the one that
Yeah,
has the ability to. So normally the Omega can reset
reset
the day.
time. Yeah.
Whenever an alpha dies, it resets and it gains the knowledge, so that's how it knows the humans are coming. Just for anybody who
Yeah.
hasn't seen the movie.
Yeah, so, like, we get that. We get it just enough to explain why time travel is happening and just enough to explain why the aliens are so diggity dang good at what they're doing kind of thing. But, like, nothing else. We don't, like
Well, yeah, because it's an action movie. We don't
yeah.
need to
Mhm.
know. The point is the characters and the action. So
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is so I think that that's really helpful, is to know what genre you're working in and
Mhm.
work with
Mhm.
that. Like if this was more of like a scientific, thriller or something, then maybe
Or,
yeah,
like,
maybe
a
it would go
hard
more into
sci-fi. Yeah.
yeah, but like that's not the point of the movie. That's not what audiences are
Mhm.
expecting. You don't need to do that.
You wanna see Tom Cruise in a mech suit beating up aliens
Yeah.
Yes.
kinda thing, and that's what you got, but with a really cool twist and some world building in it, so
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I did like so also something that I think is effective that they did to not info dump is that they relied on knowledge that the audience would already have, like how the military functions
yeah.
or that sort of thing.
Mm.
So they didn't have to explain the sergeant's yelling at you because you are a infantry troop and they're like mean and harsh. It's like you know that. You
Yeah.
know what the basic like workings of the military is. You want to be like
Yeah.
these are things that we know, so you don't have to explain it.
Yeah, definitely. And same with like the I like that they didn't explain how the mech suits were made. Just that
Mm.
there are mech
Yeah.
suits. You see it in the opening montage, like, this will change the tide of the war. Now every soldier can be an Angel of Verdun. Every soldier could be a Rita Vertaski kind of thing. But they're not like it took scientists 5 years working with a nuclear core or whatever. They're just like,
Yeah.
we have badass robot suits now, so things are gonna change. And like again, like giving you just enough information to get you on board
Mhm.
to kind of be like, because if they had them from the beginning, as a viewer, I would be like, well, then how did the aliens even get this far in the
Mhm.
first place? Kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So establishing this is a new advancement. We think it's going to change things. Moving on from there, perfect. Just enough.
Yeah, which
Mhm.
also really helps establish the time period because if they already had mech suits, like, okay, well, is this like, 2400 where humans have advanced really far and had these
Mhm.
things? It's like, no, this is present day. We were just really motivated because of the alien invasion to create
Yeah.
these, so which gives you like a nice time and place really easily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also liked how they kind of combined two tropes, or like two, yeah, I think they're tropes, but like alien invasion combined with time loop,
Yes.
Yeah.
which I think can be a really useful thing if you're worried. A lot of people are worried about their ideas being unoriginal, which, first of all,
Nothing
don't
is
worry about it because
original.
nothing is original.
Yeah.
But also, that's a good way to give something a new twist. Is like, okay, I want to write a vampire novel. Those have been done a bunch. Why will mine be different? It's like, well, pick a different, like, vampire and time loop,
Time
or
loop
like time
vampires.
loop,
Yeah.
add a time loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a
When
fun idea.
when in
I
Yeah.
would
doubt,
love
add a
that.
time loop.
We should
Yeah.
have like a deck of cards that's just tropes, and then you
Yeah,
just
and you can
draw
share
two
it.
or
Yeah.
Ooh.
three.
Like,
Ooh,
that's
You're
why
like
vampires are
yeah.
really long lived.
enemies to lovers dinosaurs.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, when you're stuck, just squish another trope in there and see what happens.
Yeah, at least play with it, right? Because you never know. Like
Mhm.
sometimes, and also when part of the thing, I think we've talked about this a million times before, people are so worried about being unoriginal, but it's like, no, readers, viewers, anyone who's consuming media tends to kind of like that, right? Like I will finish a book and say, that was fantastic. Give me something just like it to fill the void. You know
I
what I mean?
love
Like it's,
tropes. I think
yeah,
they're
Mhm.
great.
Yeah.
Unless they are like problematic or misogynistic or
yeah,
racist or
Yeah.
something like
Yeah.
that. Otherwise, if it's just
Well, also there's
like,
different tropes that different people like. Like some people will
yeah.
love a time loop and some people will not like a time loop. But then,
yeah,
either way you'll find your audience because you also, if
Yeah.
people don't like a time loop, you don't want them engaging with your story because they're going to hate it. Like,
yeah.
then that's not
Exactly.
your
Yeah. And
audience.
even the same trope, like looking at Groundhog Day versus Edge of Tomorrow versus Palm Springs, three
Mhm.
wildly different movies. Also, I'm gonna throw in Meet Cute in there if you haven't seen it. That's another
Oh, I
time loop
haven't seen that
movie
one.
with
Oh.
Kaylee Cuoco and Pete Davidson.
Oh, that's a
I
fun
thought
cast.
it's literally called Meet Cute, so you think it's gonna be a fun
Ah.
romantic comedy, but it
Oh,
was
is it not?
emotionally devastating.
Oh.
Like a
Oh.
weirdly I put it on in the background while I was doing schoolwork, and I thought it was gonna be like a fun thing, and I was crying by the end. Um, so but, like, even comparing those 4 movies, all wildly different. Even Meet Cute and Palm Springs, both kind of romantic comedies with a time loop, still very, very, very different movies. So, like, don't stress yourself out too hard about someone's done a time loop before. It's like,
Mm,
that's great, but how are you gonna do it differently?
mhm.
So
If someone was going, like, if someone wanted, so say I, the writer, sit down and like, I want to write a time loop because I think they're really cool. Would you both tell me to go watch a bunch of other time loop things, or should I avoid time loop media to as so, or some sort of middle ground? What would you say to someone who wants to write a particular trope?
So I have seen and heard of writers who say, I will not read anything. Sometimes I won't read at all, which is, I
Ooh.
don't know, bonkers to me. And sometimes it's, I won't read anything in my genre or anything like the book I'm about to write because I don't want to be creatively stunted or something. And
Mm,
I really advise not to think that
yeah.
way, because reading in your genre and stories like the one you were about to write, what it really does is gives you ideas and inspiration, and you're not going to steal someone else's idea. It's just really important to read published books in your genre and
Yeah.
that are similar to what you want to
Because
write.
even
mhm.
from like aside from the storytelling aspect, if you're looking at the marketability of it, you
Mhm.
have to know what your audience wants to read, and you have to know
Mhm.
what publishers are going for, and you have to know what moviegoers are wanting to see, kind of thing, right? Like, that's not to say you have to do a cookie cutter thing or anything like that. You could totally try and go outside of the box. But if you want
But
to write like a sci-fi romance, read some sci-fi romance, see what's working, see
yes.
what's getting
Mhm.
published. Like,
And I
doesn't mean you have to
promise
follow it.
you,
Yeah.
it will not stunt your
No,
creativity. It
not at all.
won't.
Yeah.
It will grow it. I
What
promise.
the only thing I would say maybe don't do is like don't just watch or read one. Like for
Yeah,
at least
do a
for
bunch.
me, I feel like because I'm
Yes.
very influenced by what I'm like reading or write or like watching at the moment. So I feel like if I just were to watch one and then try and write one, I'd like end up closer to that than maybe I would want to be. So I would say like definitely read like a few. Don't just be like, oh, I read one sci-fi, fantasy, romance. Now I'm good to go. It's like read a
Yeah,
few.
no,
Read a
read a
bunch. Yeah.
variety and take notes of, oh, I liked this, I didn't like this,
Mhm.
it's helpful.
It's
Hmm.
like trying on clothes, right? You're not gonna end up with the exact same outfit, but, if you know you like a cardigan and with a pair of jeans, then do that kind of thing, so.
Mhm.
Hmm. One other question that I had. Did we ever get an explanation as to why the aliens are called mimics? I don't think I noticed anything.
I did not pay attention to that. But
I
now that I think about it, that is a weird name.
Right? Like you think you hear
Yeah.
mimic and you're like, okay, I understand what this alien's gonna be. And then we
They
saw the
it
aliens
can
and it's
And
like
they're
yeah.
not, yeah.
they don't mimic anything. They
I would
don't
assume
like
they could like transform into humans or something, like
right?
make themselves look like something else.
Yeah.
I'm wondering the only thing that I can think of is so apparently this was adapted from a Japanese novel. So I'm wondering if maybe
Oh.
like the original name
Oh,
was like something in Japanese that like got translated but like doesn't have the same
Or
that's
maybe
a
the
good
meaning or
aliens
guess.
in the
Yeah.
something.
original content could mimic or something, but it was
Yeah,
dropped
but I
for the
just
sake
wasn't
of the
sure if maybe
movie.
I
Yeah.
missed something in this story, but I
No,
was like,
I
I
agree
don't
because I kept
think
expecting I do remember the first time I watched it, the mimic, when it got blood on Tom Cruise's face, I was like, and now it becomes Tom Cruise. Obviously, it's called a
ah.
mimic. Like there's going to be
Yeah.
a second Tom Cruise running around, and then that never happened. But yeah, that is a great
I
question.
like the idea that something got lost in translation. That sounds very possible.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Do you want to find out what I just by googling? I just googled googled
Yes.
it. Do you
Tell
want to see
us.
what Google says?
Yes. What
So
does Google say?
apparently, in the manga or in the original novel, now I'm not sure if it's a manga or a novel because now the aliens tell you something different. But apparently, the aliens like adapt to humans' attacks and strategies. Oh, which
Oh,
is also
okay.
an answer
That
to
makes
our.
sense. That makes
Oh,
sense.
okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they're mimicking
Okay.
Yeah.
the
They're mimicking
strategy
our
because
battle strategies. Yes.
yes, which
Okay.
I guess to
Yeah, yeah,
That
humans
yeah.
makes
looks like
sense.
mimicking, whereas we then find out that they're not actually mimicking, they're just
They're
reacting to
just time looping.
foreknowledge because
Yeah.
they're replaced.
Yes.
Interesting. So I feel like
That
maybe
makes a
that
lot of sense.
I would have liked if
Yeah.
they had taken out the line of Tom Cruise being like, "Why does it matter?" and instead put in a little bit on why they're called mimics.
He's
I
like,
would
"Why do you think they're called
have.
mimics? They know what we're doing. They're mimicking
Yeah.
us." Yeah.
Well, but now that you've explained it, I feel stupid and like I should have just
Yeah, I know,
realized
same.
that.
I was
I
like, "Yeah,
don't
that
think it
actually
was
makes so
obvious
much
though.
sense. I don't know why I questioned it."
Yeah,
Yeah.
why
Well,
didn't
no,
I
no,
see that?
no, because I think this is where, and I think we've talked about this before also, but I think that is them ignoring something that's relied on in the genre. Like there is a sci-fi thing of if something is called a mimic, it's going to be because it can shapeshift. Like that's just an
Yes.
established
Yeah.
Yeah.
thing. So I feel like if you're going against that, you need to explain it. Like,
A little bit.
like
Yeah.
a little bit at least, because you got to know what your readers or watchers are expecting based on other things in the genre.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, definitely.
but also, I just this isn't world building related. It kind of is. Casting actors. Emily Blunt was fantastic in this. I love
I
her in
loved her
everything.
so
I loved
much.
her in this. It was awesome.
She
Her
was
doing
great.
those yoga scenes, I was like, I want to get as buff as her. Oh my
Oh
god.
my goodness,
She looks
yes.
so good. That was
Yeah.
me being creepy. She was also fantastic as an actor, but I was just like, "Oh my god, Emily Blunt, look at you go."
Yeah, she was amazing at playing just a hardened,
Hmm.
Yeah.
tired warrior character. Yeah, I liked it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I also like that they made you think about a lot of things without actually showing or without actually explaining a lot of it. Like they go into a little bit where like she talks about how when she was time looping she had to watch somebody she cared about die over and over and over and over
Yeah.
again. And then Tom Cruise's character, because he falls in love with her, has to watch her die over and over and over again, and like that's really tough for them. But like they don't go too much into that, but then as a viewer you're able to like think about that and be like, oh my goodness, that would be so traumatizing.
Yeah.
Or like even like the repetitiveness of how boring it would be to live the same day over and
Oh
over
my
again.
God.
They don't
Yeah.
show that, but like, oh my goodness, how boring.
It's interesting to think about how this movie could have been a romance if you
It could have
had
been, but
done it differently.
I like that they didn't go
Oh
that
no, I
direction.
like that they
Yeah.
didn't, but it just makes me think about like if you have a story you want to tell and you want to tell it in a specific genre, you can, like you could write this book as or write this movie as a romance if you want to write romance, you know?
Yeah.
I am kind of curious as to, because at the end of the movie they kind of show him, I think, going to try and talk to her again once because they
Yeah.
kill the alien, and then it gets kind of, there's a weird kind of arbitrary reset which doesn't really make sense because it doesn't reset really to the same day that he got.
No.
Yeah.
I don't know, it resets to this like place before that, but then the aliens have all died, and then you kind of see him going to go find her. So you do kind of wonder, like, is he going to tell her about it? Like, clearly, like, would she still remember her own time loop, or has that been erased? Like, will they? How weird would
And
it
you
be to
just
try
don't
and, like,
know.
yeah,
We don't know.
Yeah.
They left it open-ended.
which is
Even I
very
feel
fun.
like even if I had experienced a time loop and I just had a big victory and I can say specifically Tom Cruise. This is me hating on Tom Cruise. I hate Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
If Tom Cruise came up to me and was like, "You're not gonna believe this, but I was also in a time loop and we spent 2 years fighting aliens together and now we're in love." I would be like, "No, we're not, Tom Cruise. Goodbye." Like,
Good
I
for
would not
you.
believe that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
You're
tell
in
yourself
love.
that, Tom Cruise. That's not what happened. Yeah.
I've never met you before.
Yeah. Who
But
is
I
this
think
tiny man? Get him out of my sight. Yeah.
uh yeah, well, also not to ever have the world know that he did anything, because as far as everybody's concerned, he's just a
Yeah.
PR,
Which
not
is
just
the
a PR
opposite
person,
of a
but like,
public affairs person, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
that's the opposite of his character in the beginning. He wants to be the person in front of the camera being like, "Look at all these great things that are happening." But he
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
doesn't get to do that this time. That's a
Nope.
good character growth moment for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, world builders, Emma here. Did you know that leaving your favorite podcast a review can make a huge difference in their reach? If you enjoy listening to the World Builders Tavern, head over to Apple Podcasts or whatever app you're listening to this episode on and leave the show a review. It would really help us out, and we will love you forever. I think this is a good time to hop on over to Proprietor's Pick. So, Allie, what book have you to recommend for us, and does it involve a time loop?
I'm looking at the description. I don't think it involves a time loop, but I picked The Misfit Soldier by Michael Mamet.
Ooh.
It came out in February 2022. And I'm just going to read you this little clip of a review from Lightspeed magazine instead of the full synopsis, because I think it covers what this is. This particular book feels like a heist movie that happens to feature power armor and exploding dropships, along with a squad of not quite perfect soldiers led by a wisecracking protagonist whose plans never seem to go the way he wants.
Oh, love it.
Right? So if you
That sounds
liked
good.
The Edge of Tomorrow, you might like The Misfit Soldier.
Awesome. Yeah, I love. I was like, when you said it had no time loops, like, well, how similar could it be? And then you read the review. I'm like, oh yeah, that's pretty much
The
this
same
movie,
thing,
just
yeah.
without a time loop. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
I'm
sometimes
sold.
when I'm looking for these, I usually try and pick like one or two things that are similar, because you often can't find all the
Yeah.
same
Yeah.
tropes, because otherwise then it would be the exact same story. So
Yeah. Very cool. Well, with that, I think that we are at last call. So, listeners, we have some concluding questions and thoughts for you, inspired by The Edge of Tomorrow, that you can apply to your own world building. So, Allie, what do you think we can take away from The Edge of Tomorrow when we're
I
building
have
worlds?
homework. I have homework for you listeners.
Ooh.
Next time you read a book that you like, preferably, because you want to model yourself after things that you think are good, or watch a good movie, ask yourself what world building information the writers did not include.
Yes.
And then try to figure out why leaving that info out might make it a better story. And maybe you think it would be better with the information in, but usually if it's a really good movie or good book that you like, there's a reason that they left that stuff out. And so let that inspire you when trying to figure out, what do I tell my readers? When do I tell it to my readers? Think about how that book you loved did it, or what they left out, and think about it.
Yeah.
I love
That's a good
that.
one.
Yeah.
I also have homework. Mine is going to be mine's gonna be because I think that the like combining tropes is such an interesting thing and like really good way to get your creative juices flowing. I'm gonna say write down 10 different genres or tropes on little pieces of paper and then shuffle them up and then pull out 2 at random and then just like think blue sky what you could possibly write about with those 2 tropes and just do that a few
Yes.
times, see if
Yeah.
anything gets like sparked in your brain, because I think that that's really fun. And just even if you don't end up using any of them, sometimes we just need ways to get over creative blocks, and I think that could be a really fun way of doing it. Christiana, do you have a third homework assignment, or are you going to go a little bit easier on our listeners?
I don't know if it's homework, and I don't know if it's more so a question, but a suggestion. And it is, if you are struggling in an interaction or something like that, pretend you're your character for just a moment. You don't always want your character to be a self-insert, or you might want to, but you know, I'm thinking of Bill Cage trying to explain that he's in a time loop to people and trying to warn people that he's in a time loop. The easiest way to do that is to put yourself in that position and say, well, what would I do? Like, what would I do to try and explain this totally bizarre situation to a bunch of people who I know are going to think I'm crazy? So how do I do that? So you don't want to do it all the time. You want your character to be the person responding and the character to be the person kind of moving those actions forward. But it's okay also to sometimes just sit back and be like, as a human, what the heck would I do? You know? So
Yeah,
I
that could
definitely
even
think consider that. Yeah.
yeah, that could even just be a good starting point because you think about what you would do and you'd be like, well, my character's not like me. They would never do that.
Exactly.
But they
Yeah,
might
that's
do
what I
this
mean.
instead. Yeah, like it totally can. I think that's a great.
It's
So
just
you have
yeah.
3 exercises, listeners. We've given you.
Yeah.
It's been 2 seasons and we're giving you homework now.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, that does bring us to closing time. We would love to stay longer, but unfortunately, these napkins aren't going to fold themselves. So thank you so much for joining us at the tavern. If you just can't bear the thought of waiting 2 whole weeks for another episode, join us on Patreon at patreon.com/worldbuilderstavern for access to our bonus after-hours shows. And you can also connect with us on Twitter at WB Tavern Pod, TikTok at World Builders Tavern, and on Discord, where we are the World Builders Tavern. We hope to serve you here again soon, but until next time, scram!
Bye!
Get out of here.